Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy 2020 to you. Can't believe we're already 17 days into January. I got a question on my speaker posse group a while back, and I got a few questions. I want to answer a few questions over the next several days. And I'm going to start off today with one of the biggest questions that I've gotten, and it's a big question as well because there are some potential ramifications when you're on stage and this happens to you. So raise your hand if this has happened to you. Let me know in the comments. And here's the question. So it's by Michelle Cintrone. I believe I'm saying her name correctly. And Michelle's awesome. And she says, what technique is used when you're faced with a brain fart, right? The good old lost my train of thought and forgot what I was going to say. So what would you say? What do you do if you're on stage, whether you're in a boardroom or in a meeting with your team, or you're having a conversation with friends, or maybe you're on a bigger stage. Maybe you're talking and delivering a training, or maybe you're doing a workshop. Maybe you're emceeing an event. Like I emceed an event, first one I've done in a long time last night, and it was such a cool experience. Um, in fact, as a little side note, I put a poll up in the speaker posse about what you prefer. If you prefer emceeing, keynoting, or training workshop style. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. I'm really curious, and let me know why you enjoy which one of those. So whether you're emceeing or maybe you're even delivering a massive keynote speech, right? 100 people, 300 people, 500, 1,000 or more people. And what happens if you forget where you're going? Like what happens? That's probably scares the crap out of some of you. Give me like an angry face, dude, if that really scares you, or a crying face if that really scares you. I know that scares me, and I'm a professional speaker, right? So this actually happened to me one time. It's actually happened to me way more than one time. I'm going to tell you exactly how I deal with it. There's a few different ways that I've dealt with it. But one thing I want to share first that I feel is most powerful is when you lose your train of thought, to literally just be in that moment and be with all the people in the room. And one thing that you can do is to make light of it, make a joke about it, right? Say, "Oh my goodness, I just totally forgot where I was going." Literally say that to the audience. And when you're poking fun at yourself, it's actually like really cool when you're on stage. The audience likes that. The audience actually loves that. And I've literally looked at the audience, and I'm always getting there early, shaking hands, kissing babies, high-fiving people, getting to know people seriously. And I'll know a few people's names, and I'll literally be like, "Hey, John, where was I? Like, I totally forgot what I was going to say. It was really, really good. Trust me, it was really good." And everyone starts to laugh, right? So you can kind of play around with it that way. When you're not nervous and when you're not uncomfortable about it, they won't be uncomfortable about it. And they'll laugh with you. When you laugh at it, they'll laugh at it with you. And literally, I've had audiences rewind my thoughts and help me get right back on track. And it's not a big deal at all. Like, seriously, it's no big deal whatsoever. In fact, it endears them to you even more because they know that you're real. You're not up there scripted and you remember every single thing. That's not what they want, right? They want a real person. So that's one simple way to do it. But the most powerful thing that ever happened to me, it happened several years ago, and it actually brought me to understand in my coaching and my training now of other speakers. It really brought me to really understand one of my top principles to become world class as a presenter, as a speaker. And that is magic, the magic of the pause. Right? The magic of the pause. There's so much power in just being quiet as a speaker. Like there's so much power in just being on stage, being with your people, your folks in the audience, and just being with, literally looking at them right in the eyes like I'm doing with you right now. And this experience happened to me several years ago. I'm delivering a speech, and there's about 30 people in the room, and I'm telling a story. Like this is a story that I should know, and this is a point in the story where it was where I was about to give the sort of the punchline or the content of the story and the takeaway. And I totally, like, no kidding, forgot where the heck I was. Like, I was like, am I delivering a speech right now? It was that bad. It was really, really bad. This was a little bit before, yeah, this was a time when I was still kind of in my head and still kind of memorizing a lot of my speeches, which I don't recommend doing ever. Don't memorize your speech, right? That's not the best way to be with people. But back then, like that's what I did. I used to memorize pretty much the whole speech, like an hour-long speech. It was crazy. And again, I don't recommend doing that. But even if you don't memorize your speech, which I recommend not doing, you still at times will just kind of forget or lose your train of thought, as Michelle mentioned, and not remember like where you were going with that particular sequence of words or story. And that's what happened. And I literally, like, mind completely blank. And all I did is I sort of just was with the audience, and I literally looked over here and I looked over here and I looked over here and I looked all around the room. I looked at everybody in that room. It was almost to the point of uncomfortability. And eventually I remembered what I was going to say, and I kept going. And at the end of the speech, this one young man came up to me and he said, "Clinton, I now know why I took the job at this company, the company that I was speaking at." And he has a tear in his eye. And he says, "It's because I needed to hear your speech." And he goes on to say, and by the way, that's why I speak. Like, that's why you probably speak if you are a speaker. That's what I live for as a speaker, are those kind of comments. But he goes on to say, he says, the most powerful part of your entire speech was when you just stopped and you were just present with every single one of us in the room. And you were just being with us in silence. It's like that was the most powerful part of your speech. And I almost fell out laughing. Like, I was laughing on the inside, but I was just really being with him in that moment and just acknowledging him for coming up. And he was dealing with some things, and really challenging things in his life and in his career. And he was just so moved with that power of the silence. And that was the day that I truly got the magic of the pause, right? I've always known about pausing and modulating your tonality and your pitch and your speed and all that and your volume. It's so, so important. One of the most important things as a speaker is to have that contrast of all those different things I just said and many other things. And I always knew the power of the pause. You've probably heard of it. But I never really got like the magic that is in silence as a speaker and an audience, that opportunity to be with each other and just connect. So what I'm saying is the pause and silence, when you forget your words, when you forget what you're supposed to say, when you forget your story, when you forget your train of thought, as Michelle says, it can actually be a massive, like, I don't want to say weapon, but tool for good to create this amazing experience for yourself and for your audience. And as you're growing, as you're learning, which I know many of you are in the Speaker Posse group, you're becoming a better speaker. And sometimes you might forget where you're going, or sometimes you might be in your head. Well, just know that the pause can actually be a crutch. Right? It can be sort of a crutch or an aid as you grow as a speaker. And as you get full, if you gain full facility of the pause, it really becomes a tool, and it really becomes one of your best tools, one of your most powerful tools. So I invite all of you to consider that pausing is okay, and it's actually a really, really powerful thing, and you can utilize it to your advantage. So don't worry about it when you forget what you're going to say. Be with everyone in the audience, right? And if you get uncomfortable, if you're not sure where the heck you were, literally ask the audience. Like, it's okay. It's okay. They will be how you be in that moment. If you're totally awkward and nervous and like, oh wow, I totally forgot what I'm going to say. This never happens to me. Oh my goodness, and you're embarrassed, don't ever say that, and never apologize to the audience, right? You don't have to. Just be like, John, holy cow, I was on a roll right there and I totally forgot where I was going. What was the last thing I said? And you'll get a chuckle out of the audience, and maybe 1 out of 1,000 people might be like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to listen to a word this person says after this. But don't worry about it. That person's they're not going to receive your message anyways. Everyone else in the room is going to be like, wow, Michelle's totally human. I can totally relate to her even more now, right? So there's 2 strategies for you right there that you can utilize when you forget where you're going in your speech. All right, tomorrow or someday soon, I'm going to share another powerful tip in response to another question that I've gotten recently. But until then, make sure you join my Speaker Posse. It's a free group on Facebook. And ask me any question that you have about speaking, and I'll do a video just like this for you. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.